Yo, what is up guys? Today we're talking about the upcoming fight between Karl Robertson and Dalcha Lungiambula at UFC Fight Night Thompson vs. Neal. This fight is a middleweight fight. Karl Robertson is 9-3, the 30th best middleweight fighter in the world. Dalcha Lungiambula is the 44th best light heavyweight fighter in the world. Currently 10-2, coming off a loss, I believe, to Magomed Ankalaev in his last fight about a year ago by front kick KO. Karl Robertson is also coming off of a loss, I believe, to Marvin Vettori, who we just saw get an amazing main event shot against Jack Hermansson and absolutely dominate Jack Hermansson. But yeah, Karl Robertson lost to Marvin Vettori about 6 months ago. Karl Robertson is the favorite in this fight, currently sitting around minus 260 as the moderate favorite to win this fight. Dalcha Lungiambula is currently sitting around plus 215 as the moderate underdog to win this fight. There's definitely an age advantage for Karl Robertson in this fight, as he is 30 and a half years old. Dalcha Lungiambula is only 35 and a half years old, so a big age advantage for Karl Robertson in this fight. Also, Karl Robertson is 6 foot 1 inch tall, a very tall middleweight fighter in this middleweight division. Dalcha Lungiambula, moving down from light heavyweight to fight Karl Robertson in this one, is currently 5 foot 8 inches tall, which means Karl Robertson is going to have a 5-inch height advantage in this fight. That is absolutely insane. But Dalcha Lungiambula does have a bigger reach advantage than Karl Robertson, as Dalcha Lungiambula has a 76-inch reach. Karl Robertson has a 74-inch reach, so a little advantage there for Dalcha Lungiambula. As I said before, the betting odds for this fight have minus 260 for Karl Robertson, plus 215 for Dalcha Lungiambula. And if you look at the Tabology predictions for this one, out of 797 votes, which is a very good sample size for this UFC prediction, 70% of the vote are going for Karl Robertson to win the fight, mainly by unanimous decision. And then obviously, some people do think he's going to win the fight by knockout and submission. In my opinion, I think the main way Karl Robertson is going to win this fight is going to be by unanimous decision. The main way Dalcha Lungiambula is going to win this one is probably going to be by knockout. If it doesn't get a knockout, I don't really see another avenue that he would win the fight. He could win the fight by decision, but I definitely think that his main avenue to get a victory would be to get a knockout in the first or second round, and that is basically what the Tabology predictions are saying as well, as 30% of the vote are going for Dalcha to win the fight, mainly by knockout, and then obviously some people are saying he's going to win the fight by unanimous decision. This should be a very interesting middleweight fight. Karl Robertson, as I said before, coming off a loss to Marvin Vettori. Before that, at the beginning of his career back in 2015, he got a decision win, a first-round armbar win, and then a first-round TKO win, a first-round armbar win over Derek Brown, a first-round TKO win over Ryan Spann on Dana White's Contender Series. If you don't know who Ryan Spann is a top 20 light heavyweight fighter inside the UFC right now, and he ended up knocking out Ryan Spann on Dana White's Contender Series with a first-round knockout in just 15 seconds of that very first round. Absolutely insane. And in his first fight inside the UFC against Darren Stewart, Karl Robertson ended up beating him with a first-round rear naked choke submission, but lost his next fight to Cesar Ferreira. He did get the fight to the ground and was dominating it for the first whole round, but right at the end of that very first round, he ended up getting submitted from an arm triangle choke submission with literally 15 seconds left in that very first round. A very unfortunate loss for Karl Robertson, but he did come back in 2018 with a decision win over Jack Marshman, but lost his next fight in a very big step up in competition against Glover Teixeira by first-round arm triangle choke submission, and then obviously came back with a decision win over Wellington Turman and a third-round rear naked choke submission win over undefeated at the time Roman Kopylov. But in his next fight, as I said before, lost his next fight to Marvin Vettori by first-round rear naked choke submission. Alright guys, so the reason that this fight did not happen last week, as you probably already know, this fight was supposed to be taking place on that UFC 256 fight card. Obviously like 10 fights or 11 fights ended up getting canceled from that UFC 256 fight card, and this fight between Karl Robertson and Dalcha Lungiambula was just another one of them, as Karl Robertson ended up getting COVID just days before the event was to take place. But literally a day after after he got COVID, the symptoms went right away, so I don't really think that COVID is going to really affect him in this fight against Dalcha Lungiambula. Some people do think that, oh my god, Karl Robertson got COVID a day, like a week and a half ago. I really don't think it's going to play that big of a factor in this fight on this UFC Fight Night Thompson vs. Neal fight card, just because Karl Robertson only had it for literally a day and had very minor symptoms of COVID, so he should look very good in this fight against Dalcha Lungiambula. Obviously, Dalcha Lungiambula has amazing power in the light heavyweight division, moving down to middleweight to fight Karl Robertson in this fight. Dalcha is currently 10-2, a very good record for the light heavyweight division. He started his career back in 2014 with a first-round submission win, a first-round armbar submission submission win, 2 unanimous decision wins in a row, 1 over undefeated Yannick Bahati, lost his next fight to Norman Wessels by second round rear naked choke submission, came back with a 4th round knockout win, a unanimous decision, and then a 1st round knockout win over Alan Badat, and then a 2nd round knockout win, followed by a decision win over Andrew Van Zyl. Got a shot inside the UFC and absolutely destroyed Daquan Townsend with a 3rd round left cross to ground and pound TKO win. But in his next fight, as you guys already know, at the end of 2019, I believe in November, he ended up fighting Magomed Ankalaev, a top 15 light heavyweight fighter in the world, and then obviously lost that fight by 3rd round front kick KO, and he obviously looks to come back with a nice win here against Karl Robertson in this fight. Alright guys, so as I said at the beginning of this video, the betting odds for this fight have Karl Robertson as a 2.5 to 1 favorite at minus 260 as a moderate favorite to win this fight. And then they have Dalcha Lungiambula as the plus 215 moderate underdog to win this fight. And the reason that they have Dalcha Lungiambula as a moderate underdog to win this fight is because he does only have 2 fights in the UFC. He's 1-1 in the UFC and had a very devastating loss to Magomed Ankalaev. And we all know the main way that Dalcha Lungiambula is going to get a win in this fight is probably going to get a win in the 1st or 2nd round by knockout. But fighting a guy like Karl Robertson, the minus 260 moderate favorite, for a reason. The reason is because Karl Robertson is kind of like Marvin Vettori. That's why that fight between Marvin Vettori a couple of months ago was very, very interesting for me to watch. Because Karl Robertson and Marvin Vettori both have very, very strong ground games. And I really think that Karl Robertson is going to implement that ground game in this fight against Dalcha Lungiambula to keep the fight off the feet and on the ground, where Karl Robertson can get the fight on the ground, keep on top of Dalcha Lungiambula, go for some submissions, or just keep Dalcha on the ground and control the fight for 3 straight rounds and get a unanimous decision. And honestly, that is what I think is going to happen. I think Karl Robertson is going to get a takedown in the 1st round, really not let Dalcha execute his game plan, which is keeping the fight on the feet and going for knockout after knockout after knockout. Karl Robertson is going to absolutely eliminate any chances of Dalcha to get a knockout in this one by taking him down over and over and over again, going for submission after submission after submission. Do I think Karl Robertson is going to get one? I actually think the chances that Karl Robertson gets a submission in this fight, maybe 25%. I think 1 out of 4 chance that Karl Robertson gets a submission in this one, just because Dalcha Lungiambula does not have the best submission defense, especially against a very, very good grappler in Karl Robertson. But I think this fight's going to go all the way. I definitely do think that Karl Robertson is going to dominate the fight on the ground for 3 straight rounds, get a 30-27 on all 3 judges' scorecards, and win this fight by unanimous decision. Alright guys, if you agree or disagree with that prediction, I don't really care. I want to see what you guys think is going to happen in this fight. So put your predictions in the comment section below. I'd love to see who you guys think is going to win this one. Is it going to be Karl Robertson absolutely dominating the fight, getting a unanimous decision? Is it going to be Dalcha Lungiambula going out there in the 1st round and landing a nice right hand that drops Karl Robertson and Dalcha gets that 1st round knockout? I mean, anything can happen. This is an MMA fight. Anything can happen. But in my opinion, I have Karl Robertson winning the fight by unanimous decision. If you have that is fine. I mean, if you have Dalcha winning by knockout, that is fine as well. That's perfectly reasonable because he has amazing, amazing power on the feet. But I'm personally going Karl Robertson because he has amazing, amazing grappling and wrestling. But yeah, make sure to like the video if you like the video. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when I post a new video. That would be absolutely insane if you did that. It's been a very, very fun video. I'm out of here.